GTM Podcast Buddhist Knowledge 38 Blessing of Life Blessing 9 Part 4 Practical Considerations Part 2 Hello everyone. You are listening to GTM Podcast Buddhist Knowledge 38 Blessing of Life. Continue from the previous session, which is about the considerations of practicing observing precepts. And in this episode, we will go deeper into 8 precepts and the other precepts. Components of 8 precepts. 1. The difference between 5 and 8 precepts. The following differences are found between the components of the precepts shared between the 5 and 8 precepts. The third precept, unchastity. The first difference between the 5 precepts and the 8 precepts concerns the third precept. Immoral sexual relations are replaced by abstention from any sexual relations. For the third precept of the 8 precepts, there are only 2 components. 1. You have the intention of having sexual relations. 2. There is a joining of the sexual organs. In this case, it makes no difference whether your partner is your husband or wife. It will cause your precepts to be broken. If either or both husband and wife are training themselves in the 8 precepts, it is usual for them to sleep apart. This form of training is important because for most people in the world who lack control over their own minds, for most of the time, their thoughts and actions are dictated by the defilements of sensual indulgence. The 5 precepts already teach you to be content with your spouse. The 8 precepts go further with this training by offering 6, 7, and 8 precepts to help play a supporting role in reduction of attachment to sensual stimuli. The 5th precept, not drinking alcohol. Another difference between 5 precepts and 8 precepts concerns the 5th precept. For 5 precepts, the 5th precept has 5 components, but for the 8 precepts, there are only 4 components as follows. 1. The liquid drunk must be alcohol. 2. The person must have the intention to drink it. 3. The person must make the effort to drink it. 4. The alcohol must be swallowed. You will see that for the 8 precepts, it is no longer necessary to know that the drink is alcohol in order to cause the 5th precept to be broken. Two, 6th precept, refraining from untimely eating. It is commonly asked by housewives who keep the 8 precepts whether they are allowed to taste the food they are preparing for their husband in the evening. Sometimes to taste and to eat food are not the same, except for the person who tastes half a plate of food and still doesn't know the flavor. 1. It must be midday of one day to the dawn of the next. The dawn signals the changing of the day for Buddhists. Technically, the earliest time that if you go out into the open and stretch out your arm, you can see the line on your hand clearly without having to use torch, or the time at dawn when you can first distinguish the leaves of tree as being of different shades of green. 2. The substance eaten is solid food, chewable. This second component has some exceptions. Chewable food that is allowed. Exceptions include refined sugar, sugarcane juice, tamarinds, embolic myrobalan, nutgall, or pickled ginger. For those who might have dietary problems if their stomach is completely empty, cheese or butter is allowed, but not cheese sandwich. 3. The effort is made to eat the food. 4. The food is swallowed. If all 4 of these components are present, then the 6th precept will be broken. The point of keeping the 6th precept is to remove another possible risk of sleepiness as a hindrance to one's meditation practice by avoiding a heavy evening meal. If we eat too much, it will give us more energy than we can use, and this contributes to ease of sexual arousal. If you were to miss a meal once a week by foregoing an evening meal, you will find that the excess food will be burned up. Seventh precept: not indulging in entertainment or immodesty. Indulging in entertainment means specifically singing, dancing, or playing musical instruments yourself, watching others doing the same, accepting national anthem or music in honor of the monarch or in some ceremony. Immodesty means wearing perfume, jewelry, flowers, or makeup, except talcum powder for medicine purpose. Some people ask if they can watch the television when keeping the 8 precepts. The answer is that you have to be selective about what you watch. You can watch news, but don't go watching a cabaret or certain sort of advertising. You have to avoid contact with cosmetics that are meant for beautification instead for health. You shouldn't wear perfume, makeup, flowers, hair dye. Wearing talcum powder should just be to prevent athlete foot or abrasion, not for beautification. The components of these 7 precepts are any of the following. 1. Playing musical instruments, dancing or singing romantic songs yourself. 2. Watching entertainment consists of singing, dancing, or romantic music. Or all of the following. 1. There are cosmetics or perfume. 2. The reason is not because of poor health. 3. You wear the cosmetics or perfume. Four. 8th precept: not engaging in indolent sleeping habits. The following are the components of the 8th precept. 1. The sleeping place is large or high. 2. You know that the sleeping place is large or high. 3. Sitting or lying down on that place. You will notice that not only lying on a soft mattress is forbidden, but also sitting on such a mattress, because they contribute to making the mind wander. The softer the mattress on which you sleep, the less you feel like getting up in the morning, right? As you sleep without mindfulness, it will start to undermine the purity of your 3rd precept. However, nowadays, houses commonly have sofas which are soft. If you were to be strict, sitting on a sofa would be forbidden. But for the sake of manners, it is better to accept others' hospitality than to take all the cushions off the sofa and throw them away. At the same time, we should take care of our presence of mind. we have to think of both our precepts and the appropriateness in any situation. Sometimes, hotels have nowhere but bed upon which to sleep. In other places, it may be too cold to sleep on the floor without anything under you in the way of insulation. Thus, consider appropriate in each situation. Monastic discipline. 1. The objective behind monastic discipline. The Buddha created the monastic discipline for 10 reasons. 1. To maintain peace in the monastic community. 2. To restrain stubborn and shameless disciples. 3. To maintain the happiness of the monastic community. 4. To maintain the happiness of monks who love discipline. 5. To give protection from defilements that might increase in the present time. For example, if monks are allowed to speak one-to-one with female, there may be many new problems resulting. 6. To give protection from defilements that might increase in the future. For example, if monks are allowed to speak one-to-one with females, later it may lead the monk to spend all their time thinking of that female. 7. To instill faith in the public who are not yet faithful. 8. To increase the faith of the public who are already faithful. 9. To maintain the teaching of the Buddha steadfast. 10. To maintain discipline itself. Two. Components of monastic discipline. Although it would be possible to give the components for each of the 227 monastic precepts, same principles apply for those with the 5 and 8 precepts. There is insufficient time to do so. However, to demonstrate that monastic discipline is more than just a code of conduct, the 4 components of monastic practice are described in this following. 1. Restraint according to monastic code of conduct. The Patimokkha is the set of rules of training which the Buddha gave to monks for the restraint of their bodily actions and speech. As soon a monk ordains, whether he knew the rules or not previously, it is immediately his duty to make sure he knows and abide by the 227 rules of conduct. The 227 rules therein can be divided into 3 degrees of seriousness. 1. Rules entailing defeat or parajika. There are 4 rules in this category: killing people, stealing, sexual intercourse, and claims of mental attainments. Any monk who infringes the rules of this category immediately is no longer a monk anymore. Whether he is disrobed or not, he is no longer a monk anymore. It is the heaviest infringement of monastic conduct possible. 2. Rules entailing an initial and subsequent meeting of the order, or Sanghadisesa. This category of rules of training is less serious than the previous one that mentioned, but can still be considered evil and coarse. When a monk breaks one of those rules, they must confess their transgression to the rest of the monastic community. If a monk who is infringed such a rule still has not admitted his fault to the rest of the monastic community, then he is still not returned to purity. The reason for this is to show that you are aware of your fault and will not do it again. Only then can the monk be readmitted to the monastic community. 3. Rules entailing confession. These include rules entailing confession, pachittiya, rules entailing forfeit and confession, nisakkiya patittiya, rules entailing acknowledgement, paditeseniya, minor transgressions, tukkatta, and wrong speech, tuppasitta. For these infringements of the monastic conduct, there is no need for monks to confess in front of the monastic assembly. By confessing to another monk, the offended monk can be returned to purity again. In fact, confession doesn't wash away the evil caused by infringement of the discipline, but it helps to give the monk the mindfulness not to infringe the same rules of conduct again. Confession is like healing of an open wound, but the scar still remains. Best of all is never to break the rules of monastic conduct. 2. Restraint of the sense. This means specifically the restraint of the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin contact, and mind. Monks should not look at inappropriate things. If a monk sees a couple petting at the side of the road, he shouldn't stay and watch them, but should quickly go somewhere else. Monks should not listen to inappropriate things. There is no need to go listening to gossip that doesn't concern him. Monks should not smell things that are inappropriate or taste things that are inappropriate. Mostly these concern food and not just eating things for the taste. Monks should not touch or have skin contact with things that are inappropriate. Not using rubbing creams just for smoothness of the skin or to take pleasure in touching soft and comfort things. Monks should not use their mind to think of inappropriate things. In other words, monks should not find pleasure or displeasure from the use of the sense. 3. Purity livelihood. Monks should make their living, but not by cultivating fields or earning a wage. The proper way of making a living for monks is to go alms round. All monks know this, but some think that alms round is inconvenient, because sometimes alms are donated, sometimes not. To set oneself up as a fortune teller or a seller of lottery tickets somehow seems more convenient. But it is not pure livelihood for monks. Lotteries are a form of gambling, and gambling is one of the roads to ruin. Thus, if monks encouraged to make their living out of lotteries or lotteries numbers, don't go supporting them. They are in breach of monastic discipline. Fortune telling by monks is no better than lottery tips. Fortune telling is a pseudo-science of statistics and is not grounded on truth. Thus, fortune telling is a sort of guesswork which is not much better than lying. 4. Reflection on requisites. This is the practice by monks of recollection or reflecting on the 4 different sorts of requisites before use. The requisites of clothing, food, shelter, and medicine are the basic needs of life. Monks must reflect that the requisites are nothing more than needs to keep the body going, in the same way as fuel keeps a car mobile. Most people use the requisites of life without distinguishing between need and want. But for monks, the proper practice is to use the requisites to train oneself in the consideration of moderation. So everyone, these are the practical considerations that could be effect on how you practice observing precepts, whether they are the 8 precepts or the monastic precepts. We will continue to the last part of Blessing 9, Be well trained in discipline, which is attainment of self-discipline and illustrative example. So stay tuned. If you like the program, don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Share it to your friends and loved ones, so it can help supporting us and keep the program continuing. See you again next time.